I wanted to transform my body. Marcus wanted to transform everything. By the time I realized the difference, I was already doing exercises I'd never learned in any gym class. My name is Jessica. I'm 34 years old, and I never thought I'd be the type of woman to have an affair with a man 6 years younger than me, especially not with my personal trainer. But sometimes transformation happens in ways you never expect, and sometimes the person who changes your body ends up changing your entire life. Let me start from the beginning. I've been married to David for 10 years. He's a good man, a reliable husband, an accountant who works steady hours and comes home every night. When we got married, we were both in decent shape, not fitness models, but healthy, active people who went hiking on weekends and could climb 3 flights of stairs without getting winded. But 10 years of marriage, career stress, and comfortable routine had taken its toll on both of us. David had gained about 30 pounds, settling into that soft middle-age spread that happens when you spend most of your day sitting at a desk eating takeout lunches. I'd gained 25 pounds myself, and every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger looking back at me. The woman in the mirror had thicker arms, a rounder face, clothes that fit differently than they used to. She looked tired, older than her 34 years, like someone who'd given up on herself somewhere along the way. I hated that woman. I hated how invisible she felt, how David barely seemed to notice her anymore, how she'd lost all the confidence she used to have. David and I talked about getting healthy together, the way married couples do. We should join a gym, one of us would say over dinner. We should start eating better. We should go for walks after work. But talk was all it ever was. David would come home exhausted from work, eat whatever I'd prepared or ordered for delivery, and spend the evening watching Netflix or playing games on his phone. Our physical relationship had dwindled to almost nothing, and when we did have sex, it felt perfunctory, like we were both just going through the motions. I knew I had to do something, not just for my health, but for my sanity, for my sense of self-worth. I needed to feel good about myself again, needed to remember what it felt like to be strong and confident and attractive. So I did what thousands of other middle-aged women do when they reach their breaking point. I joined an upscale gym. Elite fitness was everything I thought I wanted. Clean, modern, filled with expensive equipment and people who looked like they knew what they were doing. The membership fee was outrageous, but I told myself it was an investment in my health, in my future, in becoming the woman I wanted to be again. The first few weeks were humiliating. I fumbled with machines I didn't understand, felt self-conscious in workout clothes that clung to all the wrong places, and struggled through cardio sessions that left me red-faced and gasping while 20-somethings bounced effortlessly on the treadmills next to me. I considered quitting a dozen times. That's when Marcus introduced himself. I was struggling with a weight machine, trying to figure out how to adjust the seat, when I heard a voice behind me say, "You look like you could use some help." I turned around and saw him for the first time. Marcus was maybe 28, with the kind of body that belonged on fitness magazine covers. Tall, broad-shouldered, with defined muscles that showed clearly through his fitted black t-shirt. His dark hair was slightly messy, like he'd just finished an intense workout, and his brown eyes had a confidence that I found both intimidating and magnetic. "I'm Marcus," he said, extending a hand. "I'm one of the trainers here. First time with this machine?" "First time with any machine," I admitted, feeling my cheeks flush with embarrassment. "I'm Jessica. And yes, I'm completely lost." His smile was warm, encouraging. "Everyone starts somewhere. Mind if I show you?" What followed was a 15-minute tutorial that was more educational than anything I'd learned in my previous 3 weeks at the gym. Marcus didn't just show me how to use the machine. He explained what muscles it targeted, how to maintain proper form, why certain adjustments mattered. But more than that, he paid attention to me, real attention. He watched my posture, corrected my positioning with gentle touches to my shoulders and back, and never once made me feel stupid for not knowing something. "You've got good instincts," he said as I completed a set of lat pull-downs. "Your form is naturally pretty solid. You just need someone to guide you through the basics." It was the first compliment about my physical capabilities that I'd received in years. David never commented on my body anymore, except to occasionally pat my stomach and joke about us both getting soft. But Marcus saw potential in me, saw strength I didn't even know I had. "Would you be interested in some personal training sessions?" he asked as we finished. "I think I could really help you reach your goals." I should have said no. Personal training was expensive, and David was always worried about our budget. I should have stuck to my plan of fumbling through workouts on my own, maybe taking a group fitness class or two. But something about the way Marcus looked at me, like I was worth investing in, made me say yes. "Let me think about it," I said, but we both knew I'd already decided. That night, I brought it up with David over dinner. "I met a personal trainer at the gym today. He thinks he could help me get better results." David looked up from his phone, where he'd been checking work emails. "How much does that cost?" "I'm not sure yet. I'm going to find out. Just don't go crazy, Jess. We've got the mortgage and the car payments, and I'm hoping to get that promotion this year, but it's not guaranteed." That was it. No encouragement, no interest in my goals, no recognition that this might be important to me, just concern about money, and a quick return to his phone. I scheduled my first session with Marcus for the following Tuesday. From the moment it began, personal training with Marcus was unlike anything I'd expected. He didn't just put me through a generic workout routine. He asked about my goals, my fitness history, my lifestyle. He wanted to know what I ate, how much I slept, what kinds of stress I dealt with at work and at home. "Fitness isn't just about the hour you spend in the gym," he explained as he led me through a warm-up routine. "It's about how you live your entire life. Everything's connected." The workout itself was challenging but not overwhelming. Marcus had a gift for pushing me right to the edge of my capabilities, without making me feel like I was going to die. He demonstrated every exercise himself, his body moving with the kind of fluid grace that comes from years of dedicated training. When he corrected my form, his hands were firm but careful, professional but somehow intimate. "Feel that?" he asked, placing his hand on my lower back as I performed a deadlift. "That's your core engaging. That's your body getting stronger." I felt it, all right, but I also felt the warmth of his hand through my workout shirt, the way his presence seemed to fill the space around me, the unfamiliar flutter of attraction that I'd almost forgotten I was capable of feeling. After that first session, I was addicted, not just to the endorphin rush of a good workout, but to the way Marcus made me feel. For 1 hour, twice a week, I wasn't invisible Jessica, the wife who'd let herself go. I was his client, someone worth his time and attention and expertise, someone who was getting stronger, more capable, more confident with every session. The changes started small: better posture, increased energy, clothes that fit a little differently. But Marcus noticed everything. "Your shoulders look stronger," he'd say. "I can see definition starting in your arms. You're moving differently now, more confidently." David noticed nothing. He'd come home from work, grunt hello, and ask what was for dinner. He never commented on my improving fitness, never asked how my training sessions were going. When I told him I was feeling stronger and more energetic, he'd nod absently and change the subject to something about work or bills or weekend plans that didn't involve any physical activity. After 6 weeks of training, Marcus suggested we add a third session each week. "You're making great progress," he said. "I think you're ready to push yourself harder." "I'm not sure I can afford 3 sessions a week," I admitted. "What if we did one of them at your house?" he suggested. "Home sessions are usually more expensive, but I could give you a discount. We could set up in your living room or garage, work on bodyweight exercises and flexibility. It would be more convenient for you too." The idea of Marcus coming to my house should have felt inappropriate, but I was so focused on my fitness goals, so addicted to the feeling of getting stronger and more confident, that it seemed like a practical solution. "My husband gets home around 6:30, I said. "Would earlier in the day work?" "Absolutely. I'm usually free in the afternoons. Would 4 o'clock work?" That's how Marcus started coming to my house every Thursday at 4 p.m. The first home session was professional and focused. Marcus showed up with a gym bag full of resistance bands, exercise mats, and portable equipment. We cleared space in my living room and went through an hour-long workout that was just as intense as anything we did at the gym. But there was something different about having him in my personal space. Maybe it was seeing him surrounded by my furniture, my photos, the domestic details of my life. Maybe it was the intimacy of working out in my own home, without the distraction of other gym members. Whatever it was, I found myself hyper-aware of his presence in a way that felt both exciting and dangerous. "Your house is nice," he said as we finished stretching. "Very comfortable." "Thank you. David and I have been here about 5 years now." "Where is David? You mentioned he gets home at 6:30? "He's at work. He's an accountant. Pretty standard hours." Marcus nodded, rolling up his exercise mat. "Does he work out at all?" "Not really. He talks about it sometimes, but..." I trailed off, not wanting to criticize my husband to another man. "It's hard when partners aren't on the same page about fitness," Marcus said diplomatically. "I see it a lot. One person gets motivated to change, and the other one stays where they are." It was the first time anyone had acknowledged what I'd been feeling but couldn't quite articulate.
The growing distance between David and me wasn't just about our different attitudes toward exercise. It was about motivation, about growth, about wanting to become better versions of ourselves. I was changing, getting stronger, more confident, more alive. David was exactly the same as he'd always been. It is hard, I admitted. Well, Marcus said, shouldering his gym bag. That's what I'm here for, to help you stay motivated, keep pushing forward. The way he said it, with that direct eye contact and confident smile, sent a little thrill through me that had nothing to do with fitness. After that, our Thursday afternoon sessions became the highlight of my week. Marcus would arrive exactly at 4, always professional but increasingly comfortable in my space. We'd work out for an hour, pushing my body in new ways, and then spend a few minutes talking as he packed up his equipment. Those conversations became deeper, more personal. Marcus told me about his background as a college athlete, his dreams of opening his own training facility someday. I found myself sharing things I hadn't talked about in years. My frustrations with my marketing job, my feelings about getting older, my marriage's slow drift toward roommate territory. "You're not old," Marcus said one afternoon, when I made a comment about being over the hill at 34. "You're just getting started. I can see how much stronger you're getting, how much more confident. That's not aging, that's evolving." The way he looked at me when he said it made my pulse quicken. There was appreciation in his eyes, attraction that he didn't bother to hide. It was the way a man looks at a woman he finds desirable, and I realized I hadn't been looked at that way in years. "Marcus," I said, suddenly feeling the need to establish some boundaries, "I should probably mention that I'm married." He smiled, a slow, knowing expression. "I know you're married, Jessica. I see your wedding ring every time we train. But that doesn't change the fact that you're a beautiful woman who's working hard to become the best version of herself." The compliment hit me like a physical blow. When was the last time anyone had called me beautiful? When was the last time anyone had seen effort I was putting in and acknowledged it? "Thank you," I managed. "You don't have to thank me for telling the truth." That conversation changed something between us. The professional boundaries we'd maintained started to blur. Marcus's touches during form corrections lasted a little longer. Our conversations became more flirtatious. When he helped me stretch after workouts, his hands on my legs and arms felt less like clinical assistance and more like caresses. I should have stopped it there. Should have recognized that I was developing feelings for my trainer and ended the home sessions. Should have been faithful to my marriage vows and maintained appropriate boundaries. But I didn't want to. For the first time in years, I felt alive, desired, interesting. Marcus made me feel like a woman worth pursuing, and I was starving for that feeling. The line was finally crossed on a Thursday in late October. We'd finished a particularly intense workout focused on core strength and flexibility. I was lying on the exercise mat, breathing hard, when Marcus knelt beside me. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Strong," I said, and meant it. Stronger than I felt in years. "You look strong. You look beautiful." He was close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could smell his aftershave mixed with the clean scent of exertion. When he leaned down and kissed me, I didn't pull away. The kiss was everything my kisses with David hadn't been in years. Passionate, hungry, electric. Marcus kissed like he meant it, like he'd been thinking about it for weeks, like he couldn't help himself. When he pulled away, we were both breathing hard. "Jessica," he said, his voice rough, "I've been wanting to do that for weeks." "I know," I whispered. "Me too. Your husband won't be home for 2 hours." That was all the permission he needed. What followed was the most intense physical experience I'd had in years. Marcus touched me like he was mapping territory he'd been dying to explore. He was strong, confident, focused on my pleasure in a way that made me realize how long it had been since anyone had paid attention to what I wanted, what I needed. We made love on my living room floor, surrounded by exercise equipment and the domestic trappings of my married life. It should have felt wrong, should have been weighted with guilt and shame. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world, like something that had been building for weeks and finally found its release. Afterward, we lay tangled together on the exercise mat, my head on Marcus's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow back to normal. "I should feel guilty," I said, "but you don't." "No, I don't. Should you?" Marcus's hand stroked my hair. "Jessica, you're the most beautiful, interesting woman I've met in years. Your husband is an idiot if he doesn't see that." It was the validation I'd been craving without even realizing it. Marcus saw me, appreciated me, desired me. He made me feel like I was worth something, like I was more than just a wife going through the motions of a settled life. That became our new routine. Every Thursday at 4 p.m., Marcus would come to my house. We'd work out for 45 minutes, pushing my body to new limits, building strength and endurance. Then we'd spend the remaining time making love, exploring each other with the same intensity we brought to our training sessions. I became addicted to both aspects of our time together. The physical training was transforming my body in ways that amazed me. I had muscle definition in my arms and legs that I'd never had before. My posture had improved, my energy levels had skyrocketed, and my confidence had grown exponentially. But the emotional and sexual connection with Marcus was transforming me in even more profound ways. For the first time in years, I felt desirable, interesting, alive. Marcus would tell me about his day, ask about mine, listen when I talked about work frustrations or family issues. He paid attention to my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams. When we made love, he focused on my pleasure, my needs, making me feel like the most important woman in the world. David noticed the physical changes, but in the most superficial way possible. "You look good, babe," he'd say, patting my flatter stomach. The gym thing is really working out, but he never asked about my training sessions, never showed interest in my growing confidence, never seemed to connect my transformation to any emotional or mental changes. Meanwhile, my relationship with Marcus deepened beyond just physical attraction. He became someone I could talk to about anything, someone who challenged me intellectually as well as physically. During our post-workout conversations, we discussed books, movies, current events, life philosophies. He was intelligent, thoughtful, curious about the world in ways that made our time together feel like a meeting of minds as well as bodies. "You know what I love about you?" he said one afternoon as we lay together after an especially intense session. "You're always thinking, always growing. You never accept things just because that's the way they've always been." "Is that why you became a trainer?" I asked. "To help people grow and change?" "Partly, but mostly I love seeing people discover what they're capable of. Like you. 6 months ago, you could barely do a proper push-up. Now look at you." He was right. The woman I'd become was almost unrecognizable from the one who'd first stumbled into elite fitness. I was stronger, more confident, more assertive. I spoke up more at work, made decisions more quickly, carried myself differently. People noticed. My colleagues commented on my energy and confidence. My boss mentioned that I seemed more focused and driven lately. But the most significant change was how I felt about my marriage. The contrast between my relationship with Marcus and my relationship with David became starker with each passing week. Marcus saw me, heard me, appreciated me. David barely seemed to notice I existed unless he needed something. I started to realize that my marriage had been slowly suffocating me for years. David and I had settled into a comfortable routine that was actually comfortable for no one. We were roommates, not lovers. We coexisted rather than connecting. We'd stopped growing together and started simply existing in parallel. The guilt I'd expected to feel about my affair never materialized. Instead, I felt grateful to Marcus for showing me what I'd been missing, for helping me rediscover parts of myself I'd forgotten existed, grateful for the reminder that I was capable of passion, of growth, of becoming someone better than I'd been. 3 months into our affair, Marcus brought up the subject that I'd been avoiding. "Jessica," he said as we lay together after a particularly intense afternoon, "what are we doing here?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, where is this going? Are you happy with the way things are, or do you want something different?" I'd been dreading this conversation because I didn't have a good answer. I knew I was happier with Marcus than I'd been in years. I knew my marriage felt empty and lifeless compared to the connection we shared. But I also knew that leaving David would mean upending my entire life, dealing with divorce proceedings, explaining to friends and family why I was throwing away a 10-year marriage. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I know I'm happier when I'm with you than I am anywhere else, but it's complicated. It doesn't have to be." "Yes, it does. I'm married. I have a life, responsibilities, a house, shared finances. I can't just walk away from all of that." Marcus was quiet for a moment, tracing patterns on my arm with his finger. "What if you could? What if all the practical stuff could be worked out? Would you want to be with me?" The question hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility and consequence. I thought about my life with David, the predictable routines, the lack of passion, the growing sense that we were just going through the motions. Then I thought about the woman I'd become since meeting Marcus, stronger, more confident, more alive. "Yes," I said finally, "I think I would." "Then maybe it's time to stop thinking about it and start doing something about it." That conversation planted a seed that grew over the following weeks. I started imagining what my life could be like if I chose happiness over security, passion over comfort. I started thinking about the kind of woman I wanted to be and whether that woman could exist in my current marriage. The answer became clearer with each passing day. The woman I was becoming, strong, confident, sexually alive, didn't fit in the small, comfortable box of my marriage to David. She needed more space, more challenge, more connection than David was capable of providing. 6 months after our affair began, I made my decision. I waited until after one of our Thursday sessions, when Marcus and I were lying together in postcoital bliss, to bring it up. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him, "about doing something instead of just thinking about it." Marcus propped himself up on his elbow, looking at me intently, and I think you're right. I think it's time for what? Time to stop pretending that my marriage is something it's not. Time to stop settling for a life that doesn't make me happy. Time to choose what I actually want instead of what's expected of me. The smile that spread across Marcus's face was radiant. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I don't know how long it will take or how complicated it will be, but yes, I'm sure." He kissed me then, deep and passionate, and I felt like I was finally making a choice that aligned with who I'd become, rather than who I used to be. The divorce process was exactly as complicated and emotionally draining as I'd expected. David was hurt and confused, unable to understand how our marriage had deteriorated without his noticing. Friends and family were divided in their reactions, some supportive, others judgmental. My mother cried and asked how I could throw away a perfectly good marriage for a fitness fling. But through it all, Marcus was my anchor. He supported me through the legal proceedings, the emotional upheaval, the practical challenges of dividing a shared life. He never pressured me to move faster than I was comfortable with, never made me feel guilty for the complexity of untangling a 10-year marriage. A year later, I moved into a small apartment across town. It was a fraction of the size of the house I'd shared with David, but it felt like a palace because it was mine, chosen by me, shared with someone who saw and appreciated who I'd become. Marcus and I continued training together, though our relationship had evolved far beyond trainer and client. He was my partner, my lover, my closest friend. He challenged me physically and mentally, supported my goals, and made me feel like the best version of myself every single day. The woman who walked out of Elite Fitness that first day, intimidated and unsure, was gone. In her place was someone stronger, more confident, more alive than I'd ever imagined I could be. I'd hired Marcus to transform my body, but he'd ended up transforming my entire life. Looking back, I realized that the real exercise was never about the weights, or the cardio, or the stretching. It was about having the strength to choose growth over comfort, passion over security, the woman I was becoming over the woman I'd always been. Marcus taught me that transformation isn't just about changing your body, it's about changing everything that's holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be. And sometimes, the most important exercise is the courage to start over.